أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه اللهم نعور قلوبنا واشرح صدورنا بنور القرآن والإيمان والإسلام وصل اللهم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأتباعه وسلم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, everyone is doing great. We will continue with our discussion series, the Living with Prophets. And last week we started with discussing the following the prophet. So we kind of, took a few steps back and said, okay, we've been studying all different stories of different prophets, and we're trying to get some lessons out of them. We're trying to implement them in our lives. Then we said, okay, let's first try to, took a few steps back and maybe better understand what we mean with following prophets. And more specifically, we ask the question, how do we follow a prophet and how it is related to our personal relationship with our creator, with our sustainer. And the verse that we studied last week was قُلْ إِن كُنتُمْ يُحِبُّونَ اللَّهَ فَاتَّبِعُونِي يُحْبِبْكُمُ اللَّهُ. Say, if you have been loving Allah, then follow me, Allah will love you. Or follow me and then you will understand Allah loves you. So this verse we studied last week. Inshallah, we will add another verse on top of that, which is very similar in the meaning. That one from, I guess, Surah Tawbah. And then, after discussing these two little bit, we will start with another verse. This will be our main discussion today, inshallah, which is about separating ways with prophet. Shakku, the abandoning or separating your way from the path of prophet, not following him. But before doing so, let's take even a few more steps back and ask a question one more time. I remember we asked this question before, what we understand from prophet. I've been, for some other reasons, when I was looking some videos on YouTube, of course, intellectually heavy ones, and for my studies, scientific studies, I was looking some videos on YouTube. And YouTube, knowing my Muslim background and knowing that I'm highly religious person, having all the beard, everything, and of course, listening my home, knowing that I sometimes call for adhan, qaman. So YouTube knows that I'm a Muslim. Suggest me some videos, religious videos, of course. And one of them titled something like Prophet something, a name of a guy. Not from a Muslim tradition, probably it was an Asian religious tradition. But the guy was using Prophet as a title, like Prophet Atiq, astaghfirullah. Prophet Yusuf, astaghfirullah and astaghfirullah. Oh, Yusuf was a prophet. Okay, that was a bad example. So anyway, the guy was using the title prophet just like sheikh or ustad or, I don't know, guru. So probably it's part of their tradition, and they use the name prophet, the title prophet, just to mean something like saint. And we also know from other, even Abrahamic religions. So for instance, in Christianity, the status of prophet is not that high. When, for instance, you say that Jesus was a prophet of God, not because only that Jesus is considered to be God, astaghfirullah, by them, but also the prophet is just considered to be any, let's say, wise man or any like important figure in religion. Even in Abrahamic, some of the Abrahamic religion, or some of the understandings of Abrahamic religions. And when you go outside the scope of Abrahamic religions, it's even more ordinary. As I said, just like, calling someone a guru, you can call someone a prophet. So I felt that, okay, we're studying, following prophets, we're talking about the prophets, maybe we should highlight at least ones that what we really mean with prophet. Do we take prophet as just ordinary guy, very wise man, or very, like a set of very wise men or women whom you can follow to, increase the satisfaction in your life as a means of personal development, or someone, instead of listening to your psychiatrist, you can follow your prophet, or instead of following the ideas of, let's say, Kant or Nietzsche, you just follow the ideas of a prophet. So what do we mean, or what do I mean, what do you mean when we use the word prophet? So let's start with a quick, not quiz, but, I couldn't find the word, sorry. Okay, let's start with the quick query. What do you understand, or what do you mean when you talk about prophet? Let's try to be as simple as possible, rather than constructing very fancy arguments or sophisticated lines of thought. Just the first thing comes to your mind when you talk about prophet. What do you mean when you say Prophet Muhammad or Prophet Yusuf, Prophet Salih? What prophet means to you? Very simple. practical guidance, Ayşenur says. Okay, this is probably the first thing comes to her mind. And do you mind elaborating a little bit? Because when we say practical guidance, it sounds, you can get practical guidance from your plumber as well. If your sink is blocked, you call your plumber and then get some practical guidance. Or you go to your supervisor, your professor, and ask for some practical guidance when it comes to writing your articles. Okay, she says practical guidance for how to live meaningfully in this world. Great. My best attempt at a brief, no argument explanation. Alhamdulillah, great. Thank you very much. And, I'm not challenging your ideas, of course. I'm just trying to elaborate them. So practical guidance for how to live meaningfully in this world. Similar arguments or similar, I guess, attempts would be done by any thinker, right? Any thinker that you knock his or her door would tell you how to live meaningfully. Even the ones who thinks the meaning is, think of balloon, floating in the air, that you construct your meaning yourself. They would say you should write books to guide people, and this is the meaning of life. So there are all these different attempts to say, okay, I have to live meaningfully. So do we mean something different than, are we referring to someone different than any thinker that we can think of? Or do we have to distinguish? Maybe we don't. Any guru, any spiritual leader, nowadays spiritual leaders are the ones who are, fancy, the popular. Before, scientists would be popular figures. Nowadays, the scientists and spiritual leaders, I guess, going hand in hand, and also spiritual leaders becoming, I guess, more popular, even among intellectuals. Yusuf says a guide that demonstrates divine guidance as a human, a walking speech of the divine. Interesting. So there is an emphasis of divine here, which we don't see in other thinkers, not necessarily, at least. Okay, this is a good way of good separation. Others, Maryam, Nazmul, Atik, Adam, prophet equals to, or prophet goes with. Anyone? Okay, no. So great. What comes to my mind, first thing, is it's, I guess, a combination of what Yusuf and Ayşenur mentioned. Okay, Ayşenur and Abdurrahman now talks. Someone that can give a true answer to why you shouldn't fall into despair. Okay. Someone that can give a true answer. That's interesting wording. So what comes to my mind? True answer. And I assume you know that it's true by testing. So any answer could be potentially true regardless of their source. And you would try and see whether it is true or not, which sounds very tiresome, at least to me. So Okay, again, what comes to my mind is, I guess the key word is guidance, but divine guidance. What it means that I have some expectations as a created being. When I look at the creation, when I look at the universe, I say I have all these questions and I have an expectation that the creator of this universe will give me my answers. And the prophet is the means of receiving these answers. But I guess the emphasis in prophet, or the idea of prophet, is it's coming from whatever is brought to me by prophet is coming from the creator of the universe. So I wouldn't accept any other source for my problems, as a solution to my problems. So if, for instance, I have a tooth problem, I wouldn't allow a neurosurgeon to, examine my tooth and operate on it. I wouldn't let him, no matter how educated he or she. I would say, I'm sorry, you are a neurosurgeon lady. I'm looking for a dentist. The same way, no matter how clever a thinker or a spiritual leader, how influential he, she is, my expectation is that I'm looking my answers from my creator. The rest could be true. Like, I'm not denying the possibility that every message that I receive, every idea that I interact with could be true, could include some truth. But the first criterion for me is whether there is a claim, at least a claim, that this is coming from the creator of universe. If it's not there, and most of the time the opposite is there, saying that, forget about the creator of the universe, don't be fooled, you are alone in this life, we all alone in this life, in this dark reality, we have to find our ways ourselves. When a message starts with that, I say, okay, get out my sight, please. I don't have much time. I need a dentist for my tooth. So it's been, so it was longer than I was aiming for, but to put it in a shorter form, a prophet is the carrier and applier, or how would you better say, putting something in practice. Practitioner, okay. A prophet is a carrier and the practitioner of the divine message. So it becomes meaningful through the message he or she brings. So this is the prophet for me. Yusuf, please go ahead.
So I guess in a sense, I know that I am in need of, I have tons of questions. Why am I dying as being, I guess, one of the fundamental questions that I have. And I know that some people have better answers than me. But even I know that the creator of this existence must give the most satisfactory answer to one of us. Because I am saying that you get answers better than I do. This is why I would come. I am attending this discussion to get answers from you. But there must be some among us who is going to get the answers very clearly, crystal clear from the Creator. And that person would embody those answers. It's not simply going to be, he heard the message, the answers, and just speaking it out to me. But no, that person should embody those messages. Then I would be interested in becoming a student of that person, because I want to know, why am I dying in this world? Why I need to struggle through my work? Why do I need to just bear with some obstacles? These are all the questions. Yeah, okay, time to time I enjoy living life, but not always. So why? Why? All those questions need answers. And there must be someone who is perfectly convinced because he got the answers from the source, the true source. Then I would like to listen to that person.
So, okay, I was saying that the prophet, for me, is cannot be separated from a divine message, being a messenger, a representative of the creator of the universe, being selected by creator of the universe, and bringing me the guidance, practical guidance into my life, bringing me the guidance from the creator, not his guidance. So again, even with the prophet, I'm not expecting that he will provide me guidance. I'm not asking for a wise man, or even as wise as a prophet, or as reliable as prophet. I'm not asking for his opinion, his guidance. I'm asking for the guidance, opinion of the one who created me. So I want to know what my creator wants me to do. I want to know what my creator likes and what my creator does not like. So with messenger, I'm interested in the message, divine message of my creator. That's one part. And the second part now comes into place his personality, his own life, and how he lived, how he implemented this divine message in his life. Not for the sake of imitating the details of this implementation, but trying to understand the logic of this implementation. How he implemented this divine message in his own time, in his own context, within his own context, and under his own circumstances. I'm interested in this practical aspect as well. So last week we studied loving God and how following prophet is related to each other, how they go hand in hand and cannot be separated. So today, inshallah, we will look at a similar verse. So it's a long one, I would read. Yusuf, would you like to read the Arabic for us, please? Otherwise, it will take half an hour if I try to read it.
قل إن كان آباؤكم وأبناؤكم وإخوانكم وأزواجكم وعشيرتكم وأموال اقترفتموها وتجارة تخشون كسادها ومساكن ترضونها أحب إليكم من الله ورسوله وجهاد في سبيله فتربصوا حتى يأتي الله بأمره والله لا يهدي القوم الفاسقين.
Jazakallah khairan. So it goes as almost a kind of interpretation. Of course, these translations never do justice right to the original. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Say, if your fathers, your sons, your brothers, your wives, your relatives, almost everything, wealth which you have obtained, commerce wherein you fear decline, and dwellings with which you are pleased, are more beloved to you than Allah, and his messenger, and jihad in his cause, or struggle in his cause, then wait until Allah executes his command, and Allah does not guide the defiantly disobedient people. Fasiqin. You see, to translate fasiqin, you have to say defiantly disobedient people. So yeah, I'm not planning to study this verse in details, but here again, we see that we are expected to love Prophet, and even beyond our loves to our wives. Astaghfirullah, I mean, this is so dangerous to say, right? I'm loving my Prophet more than my wife. Your relatives, your brothers, your sons, your fathers, your parents, wealth which you obtained, commerce wherein you fear decline, and dwellings with which you are pleased. So you are supposed to love Prophet and Allah. But in our context, since we're studying the following prophets, his messenger, you have to love more. There is also a similar hadith narrated, right? Almost saying that if you do not love me, the Prophet, more than you love your parents, then part, I can't remember exactly. I don't want to say something wrong, like you are not believer or you are fasiqin. I don't want to say that, but you are in trouble, we can say. So you supposed to love Prophet, you wouldn't have attained faith. Okay, thank you. If you do not love me, your Prophet, more than your parents, you wouldn't have attained faith. Loving Prophet, almost, always articulated in the same sentence with loving God, Allah, and expected to be more than almost every kind of love that we know of, every kind of love that we experience. So what do you think about that? Loving Prophet. We studied last week. We touched upon that a little. We studied actually loving God. Now loving Prophet. Yusuf, okay, put the translation of the hadith. The Anas ibn Malik reported, the Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "None of you have faith until I am more beloved to him than his children, his father, and all of the people." So what do you think about that in a very concise nutshell? What do you think about loving Prophet? What does it mean to you? And it's expected to be more than your love to your brothers. Aishanur Abdurrahman, please go ahead.
I'll just share a very brief anecdote. I don't have a direct answer to your question, but this just made me recollect how when I was younger, I was told that I was supposed to love the Prophet more than my mother. And I said, okay, but inside I was like, well, I can't, it's impossible. I refuse. I'll never be able to do it. It was just something that I kind of rejected in my mind, or perhaps with my heart. My mom would laugh about it and everything, but she'd be like, well, all joke aside, you do have to love it. And I was like, no, that's impossible. So I guess it makes me think about how love is a quality that's given to us, but it's not something that we can force. So it has to be cultivated. And so I guess the question here is, how is love for the Prophet to be cultivated, and for what reason?
I can imagine your mother smiling. Oh yeah, I know, I'm the great woman, and your mother, you love me but you should love Prophet. Yes, it's interesting. Like we talk about loving Prophet. We say we teach our children that you should love Prophet. But as you said, like being honest to ourselves, especially as children, trying to love someone we don't even know, it doesn't make much sense, at least at first sight when we first hear about it. Yusuf, please go ahead.
Ayşenur's anecdote reminded me of another anecdote. In high school, when we were talking to our friends, we are saying which is the best book you have read. We are asking this question to each other. One of my friends says, well, after the Quran, the best book that I have read is, let's say, War and Peace. But I doubt if he has read Quran. I mean, let alone he knows Arabic. Of course, he does not. I'm reading translation of Quran, most probably not. But still, I guess there's this tendency in us, the way we were raised, is to put things into number one priority if it is religious, but without knowing what it is. But we wouldn't like to touch it because it is untouchable, it is sacred. But I guess, yeah, after some point, it becomes a very relevant question to ask. Seriously, what is it? Do I really love Prophet more than anything, anybody? Do I really find Quran to be the best book that I have ever read, really? Or I'm just pretending? So this just reminded me of that sort of, I guess this is pretty much related to coming from a Muslim upbringing. But since I have the microphone, so what do I mean by loving the prophets? So last week we were discussing loving God. And in this verse, the Creator talks about love of God and love of messenger. So the two might be related, I guess, because last week when we were talking about love of God, we mentioned the things that I love. And in this verse, it's talking about pretty much everything, like my parents, my wife, my children. So why do I love them? So when it comes to loving things, I love them because there are some perfection, some quality, some beauty in there, which makes me appreciate them. But if I think about it, in reality, none of those beauties or qualities belong to things themselves. Whatever I love in my mother, is it mercy? Is it caring? It's not from my mother. It's being given to my mother. My mother is just a mirror reflecting beauty of somebody else. Mirrors are not beautiful in and of themselves. They are just reflectors of some other beauty, right? So in that sense, it's understandable to say love of God. Just know that the thing that you love is actually the beauty of the Creator. It's not the beauty of the things that you love. But when it comes to messenger, what does it mean that I love messenger more than anything? So I guess in this regard, seeing the messenger or thinking about messenger as simply a man of flesh and bones detached from his duty uh, would make this verse totally ununderstandable for us. If I take him simply as another man by disconnecting him from his duty of being this embodiment of divine speech, this verse wouldn't make any sense. Or the hadith that I copied there would sound like, this sounds very arrogant if I detach. But if I consider the messenger with the message that he embodies, which is message, what is message? Message is divine speech, like as if the embodiment of what the Creator wants me to be like. If I take it as such, then love of messenger becomes love of how my Creator wants me to be, like the purpose of my maker in this existence, why he created this existence. Prophet is the embodiment of that. So loving such a beautiful example means I am loving, again, my Creator. Because whatever I observe as perfection in the messenger becomes beauty of my creator, but different than anything else, he is a live teacher for me to make me beautiful as well.
Jazakallah khairan. Maybe the one little thing I can add on top of that before moving to next verse is that the prophet, as you said, when we detached from the message that he brings, it becomes empty. So what we usually try to do, we try to love a person who had a lot of struggles, who had to fight a lot, right? This is how we thought about the prophet. When it comes to prophet, the prophet's life, interesting, the Quran and the message usually comes secondary, but the first thing, mentioned is all the wars that he had to fight and all the struggles that he had to go through. As if, trying to make us emotional, cry a little bit, and say that, oh yeah, I love him. He had to go through all these troubles, which is not, far from our reality. Like, it is part of our reality that we love people through some emotional connections, but this kind of relationship is usually not lively, especially considering the fact that we're talking about someone who lived 14 centuries ago. So having emotional relationship with someone, with his body, with his, the physical personality or physical person, having such emotional connection is really hard, no matter how much seerah we read, no matter how much, we discuss his hadith or life. At least trying to love him more than my mother wouldn't be practical from this perspective, because no matter how much I study his life and his wars, at least if we follow these mainstream religious ideologies, he almost his entire life spent with wars, according to not Orientalists or not, atheists or Christians, according to Muslims. That's really interesting. That we are supposed to be proud of a great warrior or a statesman. Anyway, putting all these lies about him aside, so it becomes not practical, because my mother is always there as a practical entity in my life, and every second I love her. I may forget about this person who lived 14 centuries ago, 1400 years ago, but my mother, I wouldn't forget. She will be with me all the time. Unless, when I say prophet, it comes with his personality plus the message he carries me. Because when I read this message, when I implement this message, I see the transformation it brings to my life, which becomes very practical. It resolves my fear of death. It resolves my anxieties. It resolves the troubles that I have with my mother. Because no matter how much I love my mother, right, we say, of course I love my mother, but there's always this but part, right? When she interferes with our, let's say, own family, when she becomes too old, when she, get angry with us, when we disagree with her, there's always this but part. And we want this unconditional love with no but. And Prophet and his message makes it possible. By following the path of Prophet, by following the message of Prophet, our love towards our mother becomes a real love. Now it becomes a love with no but. How Yusuf mentioned this a little bit, so I'm not planning to spend more time there. But through the transformation that Prophet brings to our life, to my life, when I look at how my life, I'm sorry, I'm having trouble speaking, astaghfirullah. When I look my life and how it has changed with Quran, with Prophet's hadith, with Prophet's life, with his interpretation, with the message he brings. And when I see the value in that, which is the most practical thing in my life, when I realize it resolves all my troubles, all my problems, I say, I love this person. Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, peace and blessings be upon him, that his life, his message saved my life. It even saved my relationship with my mother. Because without it, my mother would be yet another person who gets old and becomes a trouble for me without this message. So let's look at the next verse. We don't have much time because of some technical problems that we had, but let's try to go as much as we can. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Innal lazina kafaru wa saddu an sabilillahi wa shakku. This is really interesting. Wa shakku rasula min ba'di ma tabayyana lahum الهدايا لن ضروا الله شيئا وسيبيت أعمالهم. That's the reason I don't read Arabic. It takes too long. Sorry. Indeed, those who disbelieved and averted people from the path of Allah, or averted themselves from the path of Allah, and opposed, it's usually translated as opposed, the shakku, but we can also say separate their way from the way of messenger. It's like splitting, right? For instance, when we say split the grain of a seed of grain, the same root, shakka, is used. Separating ways, saying that, okay, this is your path, this is my path. Putting the cliff, wedge between. Separated their way from the way of messenger after guidance had become clear to them. Never will they harm Allah at all, and he will render worthless their deeds. So there are a lot to discuss here. But within the context of our discussion today, so let me give you what I understand very shortly, very quickly, and then we can listen your comments, inshallah. So one thing which attracts my attention, it's separating your way from Prophet or abandoning Prophet, saying that, okay, I don't need him. or I don't even agree with him, I disagree with him, I oppose to him, after guidance had become clear to them. So we can take this in different ways, I assume. One way to interpret this is that although you have all these clear signs around you suggesting, leading you to the truth that he is the messenger, despite this fact, you oppose him. This would be applicable to, the people who are openly disbelievers or openly against the idea of prophethood, or openly against the prophethood of a specific person, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But for instance, someone like myself, at least not openly, I'm not openly opposing him. I'm not openly disbelieving. What it means, it reminds me the idea that sometimes I find myself in or following, that, okay, I already have the guidance, I have the book in front of me, and I know about his life as well. So I have the message, I have the guidance, and guidance is become clear to me. So I don't need him anymore. I can live my life without following the prophet. Birkan, how do you drink water? Oh, I know about the Quran, and I, know what is important, the core message. I implement it into practice. So, for instance, how I drink my water, I decide, because I have the core message with me. Guidance became clear to me. I'm not like other people who doesn't understand the message. I know the message. I will interpret it my way because I don't need a prophet anymore. I, benefited from him enough. Rest, I can do it myself. How about, Birkan, doing salah or prayer? How do you do it? Oh, I have my own ways. I know the core message from Quran. I know my relationship with my creator should be in a certain way. And I know how messenger, prophet implemented this in his life. But now I'm living in another century. I'm living in another time, in another city. The people around me are different. So I will put everything in practice in my way, I might be saying. And this is, may Allah forgive me, not much far from my reality. But Allah says here, He will render worthless their deeds. So if I do this, if I say, okay, I have the message, the guidance is clear to me, I will do my deeds and I will be a great person. I will be a great humanitarian. I will spend my time praying, I will spend my time studying, but in my way, in my own way. And God says, everything I do will be rendered worthless. Why? Maybe because when I do this, I forget the question, ask the question, how my creator would be pleased with me? How should I act so that my creator would be pleased, will be pleased with me? And probably I forget the fact that I do not know how my creator will be pleased with me. This is a living question in my mind, in my heart. it should be a living question in my heart. If I do these, will my Creator be pleased with me? If I do that, will my Creator be pleased with me? I should have all these questions living in my heart. But when I say, I don't need a messenger, I know I don't need someone who is beloved my Creator. I don't need someone as a role model when it comes to my relationship with my Creator. I don't need him. When I say that, these questions are not there anymore. So the criterion that I'm following when I do something is not to please my Creator. It's not to love my Creator and beloved my Creator. If you love me, follow my prophet, and then I will love you, my Creator says. But I forget about that, and I say, no, Creator is there, I know, and I know how to please him. I guess this attitude, this is what I understand from abandoning or shuck my way, splitting my way from the way of messenger, prophet. And as Quran says, all my deeds are rendered worthless. Because I lost myself in this creation. I'm defeated to my soul. So pleasing my Creator, being pleased, being loved by my Creator is not in the equation anymore. Even when I claim that no, I do this because I love my Creator, but in a different way. It means the way I know my Creator, my expectations about my Creator are not the same, are not in line, in parallel with the way Quran describes my Creator. Because according to Quran, my Creator speaks to me. My Creator does not leave me alone. He is with me all the time. And he will speak to me. He speaks to me. He speaks his messenger so that I can follow him. This is the Creator as described by Quran. So it seems I'm worshipping another Creator. And as Quran suggests, all false idols bring nothing but misery. And this is what usually I experience in my life. Even when I believe that I'm a religious person, which is mostly means, again nowadays, that I'm a spiritual person. I spent some time thinking about the creation, my Creator, love in the creation, and that's all. When I do this, I'm worshiping a false idol, partially my own soul. I guess this is all from my side, at least for now. Let's hear your comments. Let's start with Yusuf and then inshallah with others. We will continue with others.
So here, separating my way from the messenger after guidance had become clear to me. What does that mean? So this reminds me of like having a competition. Think of it like you have a teacher. While you are the student of the teacher, you keep learning stuff. And then eventually, since now you have an opinion, you say, well, in this regard, now I can put a product better than my teacher. Like in academic setup, this is what happens. Like there are no professor who is still the best. Like Avicenna was once that perfect professor of his time. Now nobody talks about his findings in the medicine. They were good at some point, but his students are now much better than him. Still, people show respect to him because he accomplished something that's best according to his time. But today, nobody reads Avicenna's medicine books. Or, I don't know, for physics, Newton, yeah, with his time, his measurements, he put something good. But we refined and refined those parameters and everything. Even people came up with an alternative quantum theory, which is a totally different thing, which puts Newton's physics into the shelf. So in our learning, in our teacher to student teacher relationship, once truth that we learned from our teacher becomes apparent to us, we might get the feeling of competition. Now I'm going to put something more on top of this, and I'm going to become better than my teacher. But as if this verse is saying that no, prophet is going to stay better than you forever. You can never, once you listen to the prophet, you realize the truth. But if you are feeling like, now I'm going to put one brick over that truth and I'm going to become taller than him, then that means you didn't get the truth at all. That means you missed the whole point. Because the point of getting the truth from the messenger, the truth that he embodied was that everything is from the creator. So this is why I am in need of having this example, the messenger himself being the perfect embodiment of saying that I am the slave of the creator. And I am using the word slave in the sense that I don't own anything. The truth that you see in my hand, it is from my creator. So then that means if I start owning something, if I feel like, well, prophet thought like this, but I am thinking like that, this sort of a thing, and I am prioritizing my thought over what prophet has said, meaning I am contradicting with him, and then that means I started losing the whole point. So although I am feeling like I am better than him, right at that moment, that means I lost the point. So this is why I guess the separating the ways with the messenger is an indicator that I am in the loss. And reading it the other way around, finding the messenger as the ultimate role model, which I can never reach, but will always stay there as the role model for me, accepting this, or not only accepting, but being convinced about this truth is my best case. This is the best that I can reach. And because in what sense was he the best? He was the best in the sense that he recognized everything was from his creator. He was not the best in terms of, or the wealthiest, the strongest, the smartest, or any of these. He was the best saying that wealth is from my creator, intellect is from my creator, strength is from my creator. And he was thoroughly convinced about it. It was not simply on his tongue, but it was on his whole being.
Jazakallah khairan. Any other comments, questions? It seems no. Okay, let's conclude here then, inshallah. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. الفاتحة.